All right, and we're back with the next chapter of the Iliad by Homer. Book 6, Chapter 6. How Paris was brought back into the battle, and how Hector parted from Andromache. So I guess the siege of Troy is well underway here, and we're just getting these sort of highlights of all the different little battles going on during the big battle. But the gods are messing around, and they're like getting involved with some people's, little standoffs there. And like, as if going to war wasn't horrible enough, imagine getting hacked on by some dude with like god powers in his back pocket. So like, some guys are getting airlifted out of there, some guys are being blessed with all the buffs, and some guys are getting totally screwed over. So it looks like we're about to check back in with the conflict, the great conflict here, and we're gonna see how, like, yeah, Paris was sort of rescued in the last chapter, and now it looks like he's gonna go back, and now we've got Hector and Andromache. I don't know who that is at the moment, but maybe we'll find out. So the great conflict was left to the Trojans and the Achaeans. This way and that way, the battle moved over the plain between Simois and the estuary, as the two armies fought and struggled together. Telamonian Aias was the first to show a gleam of hope for his side when he broke into a Trojan battalion by striking down Acamas. This was a great, strong man. A great, strong man. This was a great, strong man. Acamas, Eusorus' son, the best man of the Thracians. Aias pierced through the helmet into the bone of his forehead, and darkness covered his eyes. Next, Diomedes killed Axelos Teuthronides, whose home was in Arisbe. He was one wealthy and loved by all, for he lived near the high road and entertained all who came. But none of those was there that day to stand before him and shield him from death. No, they were both killed. He and his man Calesios, who drove his car, both passed below the earth. They always have these nice ways of saying how people just just die. Passed below the earth, darkness covered his eyes. Euryalus brought down Dressos and Opheltius. Then he went after Aesopus and Pedasus, both sons of Bucolion, by the Naiad nymph Abarabe. Bucolion was the son of Laomedon, his eldest son, but it was a secret love. Ooh, a secret love. He also lay with his nymph while tending the sheep. Well, who can blame him? And she bore him the twin sons who were slain and despoiled by Euryalus Mecastiades. Oh, yeah. Astylos was killed by Polypoetes. Odysseus killed Pedides and Teucros Ertoen. Nestor's son Antilochus brought down Abelros, and King Agamemnon killed Elatos. We're back in the Greek phone book again, ladies and gentlemen. Whose home was on the banks of broad Satnises in Pedasos on the hill. Leotos caught Phylacos in flight, and Eurypylus stripped Melanthius. Then Menelaus took Adrestus alive, for his horses in headlong flight ran against a tamarisk branch and broke off the end of their pole. The horses galloped toward the city among the crowd of runaways. The master was rolled out over the wheel and fell on his face in the dust. Menelaus was beside him, spear in hand. And Adrestos clasped his knees and prayed for his life. "Mercy, my lord king, you shall have a good ransom. There is plenty of treasure in my father's house, bronze and gold and wrought iron. My father would gladly give a rich ransom to hear that I am alive in your camp." Menelaus was willing to agree, and he was just going to send him back when Agamemnon came running up and called out loudly, "Don't be so soft, Menelaus. Do what you care for the man. What do you care for the man? Have you been so well treated by the Trojans? Then let no one escape death at our hands. Not the boy in his mother's womb, spare not even him, but let all perish together, out of Ilios, unlamented and unnoted." Oh boy. Thus he changed his brother's mind, and was right and proper. Menelaus pushed the man away, and Agamemnon thrust him through the side. He fell backwards, and the king set his foot on him and drew out the spear. Then Nestor called out in a loud voice, "Friends and Danaans, you are the servants of Ares, and no one must linger and throw himself on spoils. Our business is not to go back to the camp laden, but to kill. Then you can strip the bodies lying dead and get all that afterwards at your leisure." So they fought on with fury. And the Trojans would have returned to their Ilios cowed and defeated, but for Helenos Priamedes, the great prophet of birds. He said to Aeneas and Hector, "The chief burden lies on you too, Hector and Aeneas. Trojans and Lycians look to you." Now, is that Lycians or Lycians? Because we know the C is supposed to be a K, but, who knows. "Because you are the best men for every enterprise, in council or in the field, to fight or to provide. Then make a stand here. Go up and down and keep the men away from the gates, or they will run for it and throw themselves into the women's arms and leave the victory to our enemies. Once you have got the ranks in order, we will stand our ground and fight, weary as we are, for we cannot help it. Then you, Hector, go into the city, and tell our mother to collect the older women into Athena's temple upon the citadel. Let her open the doors of the holy house, and lay on Athena's knees the finest and largest robe she has in her stores, the one she prizes most of all, and let her promise to offer in the temple 12 yearling heifers that have never felt the goad. Only let the goddess pity our town and the wives and little children of Troy. Let her hold back Tydeus' son from sacred Ilios, that wild warrior, that strong contriver of defeat, whom I declare to be the mightiest champion of the enemy. Not even Achilles was so terrible, although he is the son of a goddess, as they say. This man is all madness, and no one can match him." Hector leapt out of the car at his brother's call. Shaking his spears, he went up and down, cheering and encouraging his men, and rallying them to fight. They turned at last and faced their adversaries. Then the Achaeans gave way and ceased their killing. Some god must have come down from heaven. Oh, they're at it again, look. They thought, to help the Trojans, when they saw them rally. And Hector cried in a loud voice, "Brave men of Troy, noble allies and friends, be men, and hold your own stoutly, while I make my way into the city, and tell our elders and counselors and our wives to offer prayer to the powers above and vow a solemn sacrifice." Hector's basically saying, "You guys stay here, I'm gonna go get help." With these words, he left them, and as he marched, the black shield slung behind him struck its rim upon his ankles and his neck. Yeah, he's in a bit too much of a hurry there, Hector. Gotta slow down, bud. Into the space between the armies came out Glaucus, the son of Hippolochus, and Diomedes, Tydeus' son, hot for a fight. But as soon as they were close enough, Diomedes spoke first. "Who are you, noble sir, of all men in the world? I have never seen you before in the battlefield. But now here you are in front of the whole host, bold enough to face my long spear. Unhappy are they whose sons will face my anger. But if you are some god come down from heaven, I'd rather not fight against the gods of heaven. Even Dryas' son, that strong man, Lycurgus, did not last long after he challenged the gods of heaven. He once drove the nurses of mad Dionysus over the sacred Nicene Mount. They all threw away their holy wands when, like, Lycurgus beat them with an ox goad. And Dionysus ran away and dived into the sea, where Thetis received him in her arms, all terrified. For the man had frightened him out of his wits. Then the gods were made angry in their life of peace, and Cronion struck the man blind. He did not live long, after he had made himself an enemy of the immortal gods. And I had rather not fight against the gods, blessed be their name. But if you are immortal, and one of those who eat the fruits of the field, come here, and you shall soon be caught in the bonds of destruction. Everyone's got a story to tell. Everyone knows a guy who met a god who did something messed up, and they always have to tell it whenever a like situation arises. Glaucus answered, undismayed, "Proud son of Tydeus, why do you ask my name and generation? The generations of men are like the leaves of the forest. Leaves fall when the breezes blow, in the springtime others grow. As they go and come aging, so upon the earth do men. But if it is your pleasure to learn such a thing as that, and to know the generations of our house, which indeed many men know, there is a city Ephyra, in a nook of Argos, the land of horses. And there lived Sisyphus, the cleverest man ever born. Sisyphus Iliad. He had a son, Glaucus, and Glaucus was father of the incomparable Bellerophontes. The gifts of the gods to him were handsome looks and noble manhood. He had a massive dong, but Proetus plotted mischief against him and drove him from the land of Argos. For he was the stronger, and Zeus had subdued the land under his scepter. Now the wife of Proetus, the lady Antea, was mad after him and wanted his love in secret, but she could not persuade Bellerophontes, being as he was a chaste man with an honorable heart. Oh. So she came to Proetus with a lying tale. "Proetus," she said, "kill Bellerophontes or die yourself. He tried to take me by violence." The king was angry to hear this tale. Kill the man he would not, for he thought an impious thing. But he sent him to Lycia with a dangerous token. He gave him a folded tablet with a message scratched on it in deadly signs, and bade him show it to his good father, that he might be put to death. This is the only allusion in Homer to writing, but Shakespeare never once mentions printing. Okay. What, this is like the first instance of something actually being written down? Is that what they're saying? Okay, true. He traveled to Lycia, then with the gods to guide him, and in... What? He traveled to Lycia, then with the gods to guide him, and in Lycia, by Xanthos River, the king of that broad realm entertained him generously for 9 days, and killed 9 oxen. Not until the 10th day dawned did he question him, and ask to see any token that he brought from Proetus. When he received the fatal token, first he asked Bellerophontes to kill the ravening Chimera. This creature came of divine stock, with nothing of man. Lion in front, serpent behind, she-goat in the middle. Wow. Lion in front, serpent behind, she-goat in the middle. And her breath was blazing fire. Bellerophontes slew her, encouraged by signs and omens from heaven. In the second place, he fought against the redoubtable Solomons. That was the hardest fight he ever fought against men, so he said. Thirdly, he destroyed those manlike women, the Amazons. But when he was on his way back, the king wove another cunning plot. He chose the best fellows out of all the country and set them in ambush. But not one of them ever returned home, for Bellerophontes killed them all. Well, where have we heard that kind of story before, hey? Sounds awfully familiar. So the king saw at last that he was a true son of the Godhead. Accordingly, he kept him there, and gave him his own daughter. Okay, this is still Glaucus's story. This is still Glaucus telling his story to these guys, just on the battlefield, I guess. He's still going on with this story. So the king saw at last that he was a true son of the Godhead. Accordingly, he kept him there, and gave him his own daughter, and half of all his royal honor. The Lycian people allotted him the finest estate in the land, orchards and farms for his use. His wife bore him 3 children, Isandros and Hippolochus and Laodamia. Zeus lay with Laodamia. And she bore a son, Sarpedon, the warrior prince. But when at the end Bellerophontes gave offense to the gods, he tried to fly to heaven on the winged horse Pegasus. Ooh, naughty boy. He became a lonely wanderer on the Ilian plain, eating out his heart and shunning the paths of men. His son Nisandros was killed by Ares when fighting against the Solomons. His daughter was killed by Artemis in anger. Hippolochus was my father, and I am his son. He sent me to Troy, and commanded me strictly always to be first and foremost in the field, and not to disgrace my fathers who were first and best, both in Ephyra and in broad Lycia. There you have my lineage, and the blood which is my boast. Diomedes was delighted with this speech. He planted his spear in the ground and said in a friendly tone, I declare you are my family friend from a long way back. Oeneus once entertained the incomparable Bellerophontes in his house, and kept him there for 20 days. When they parted, they exchanged gifts of friendship. Oeneus gave a girdle bright with crimson, Bellerophontes a double cup of gold. It was there in my house when I came away. But Tydeus I do not remember, for I was only a little tot when he left me at the time when the Achaean army perished before Thebes. So I am your friend and host in Argos, and you are mine when I go to Lycia. Let us avoid each other if we happen to meet. There are plenty of Trojans and Trojan allies for me to kill, if God grants me to catch them, and plenty of Achaeans for you to spoil if you can. Let us exchange armor, and show the world that we are family friends. They both dismounted and clasped hands, and swore friendship. Then Zeus Cronades sent Glaucus clean out of his wits, for he gave his armor in exchange to Diomedes Tydides, golden for brazen, the price of 100 oxen for 9. When Hector got to the oak tree at the Scaean gates, the women ran crowding round, asking news of husbands and brothers, sons and friends. He exhorted them each and all to make their prayer to heaven, but sorrows hung over many. Then Hector went to Priam's noble palace with its portals and galleries of polished stone. There were 50 chambers built of stone standing side by side, where the sons of Priam slept beside their wives. His daughters and their husbands had 12 roofed chambers of stone, standing in a row on the opposite side of the courtyard. Here his gracious mother met him, leading Laodice, the most beautiful of her daughters. She clasped his hand and said, Why have you left the battle, my boy? They must be pressing you hard. those accursed invaders, and you thought you might lift up your hands in prayer to Zeus from our citadel. Just wait a bit and let me bring you some wine. Pour a libation to Father Zeus and all gods, and then it will do you good to have a drink yourself. You're tired out with defending your friends, poor dear. When a man is tired out, a drop of wine will make him stout. Hector answered, No wine for me, my dear mother. You will cripple me, and make me forget that I must fight. And I dare not pour a libation to Zeus with unwashen hands. It is quite impossible to offer prayers to Cronian thundercloud, bespattered. Cronian thundercloud bespattered like this in blood and mud. You must approach Athena yourself. Gather all the older women and go to her temple with your burnt offering. Take the finest and largest robe you have in your store, the one you prize most, and lay it upon Athena's knees. Promise to sacrifice 12 yearling heifers that have never felt the goad. If only she will have compassion upon the wives and children of Troy. If only she will hold off the son of Tydeus from our sacred city, that wild warrior, that strong contriver of defeat. I leave you then to visit Athena's temple. Now I must find Paris, and see if he will listen to me. If only the earth would swallow him up. A great trouble the Olympian bred in him, for Troy and for proud Priam, and the sons of Priam. If I could once see that man go down into Hades, I would say that my heart had forgotten how to grieve. The queen called to her servants and sent them through the city, summoning the older women. She herself went down into her vaulted storeroom, where she kept robes embroidered by the women of Sidon, which Alexandros, who is also Paris, had brought from Sidon when he went on that voyage across the sea and came back with royal Helen as his bride. She chose one of these for Athena, a great spread of the finest needlework, shining like a star, which lay under the rest. Bearing this, she led the great company of women to Athena's temple upon the citadel. The gates were opened by the priestess, Cisseus's daughter, some Theano. All cried aloud the women's alleluia, lifting up their hands, the robe, and laid it on the knees of the goddess, and then she offered her prayer and vow. Queen Athena, goddess divine, savior of our city, do thou break the spear of Diomedes and strike him to the ground before the Scaean gates. Then we will sacrifice to thee in this temple 12 yearling heifers that never felt the goad, if only thou wilt have compassion upon our town and the wives and little children of Troy. So the priestess prayed. But Athena refused her prayer. Oh no. Athena refused her prayer. Meanwhile, Hector had made his way to the mansion of Alexandros, a fine place built by the best workmen in the land. Hall and women's rooms and courtyard, it stood on the citadel next door to Priam and Hector. He entered, holding his great spear 11 cubits long, with a bright blade of bronze. Made fast with a golden ferrule. He found Alexandros in his wife's room, handling his shield and corselet and fingering his bow. Helen was sitting there with her women and seeing about their work. Hector said to him reproachfully, My good man, you should not be sulking here. Men are falling in the fight outside our walls. War and battle are blazing round the city for your sake. You would be the first to attack anyone else you might see shirking his part. Up, man, or soon fire will warm up the place. Paris answered, You are right to reproach me, Hector, quite right indeed. But let me tell you this, I give you my word that I was not sulking. It is not bad temper keeps me here, but simply a bitter heart. Just now my wife has been trying to persuade me with gentle words, and driving me back to the battle. I think it will be better so myself. Victory chops and changes. Just wait a bit, and I will put on my armor. Or go on, and I will follow. I think I shall catch up to you. Hector answered nothing, but Helen said warmly, "Brother dear, I am ashamed. I shudder at myself. I can do nothing but evil. I wish a whirlwind had carried me off to the mountains on the day that I was born, or had thrown me into the roaring sea. I wish the waves had swept me away before all this was done. But since the gods ordained it so, I wish I had been mated with a better man, one who could feel the contempt and indignation of the world. But this man is unstable, and ever shall be. Some day, I think this fault will find him out. But do come in now, brother, come in and sit down. I know your heart is most heavy with this world of trouble about us, all for my shame and his infatuation. Indeed, Zeus has laid a cruel fate upon us, to be a byword for generations to come." Hector answered, "Don't ask me to sit, Helen. I thank you all the same, my dear, but I must not stay. They miss me outside, and I must go and do my part. Just keep this man up to the mark. Let him make haste himself and catch me up before I go out of the gates. For I am going home first for one look at my wife and my little boy. I don't know if I shall ever see them again. It may be God's will to lay me low by the enemy's hand." Hector's just keeping it real. So he took his leave and went on to his own house. But he did not find Andromache there. Okay, so Andromache must be Hector's wife. For she was already upon the battlements with her boy and a servant, weeping in her sorrow. Hector, when he found she was not within, stood at the door, and said to the maids, "Be so good as to tell me where your mistress has gone. To one of my sisters, or to my good sisters, or to Athena's temple where the women are making supplication?" The housekeeper said, "No, sir, not to any of the family, nor to Athena's where the women are all gone to offer their supplication. To tell the truth, she has gone up on the walls, because she heard that our people were in danger, and the enemy were getting the best of it. She has just gone off in a great hurry, like one distracted, and the nurse carrying the boy." So Hector went back by the same way along the streets till he reached the Scaean gates, by which he meant to go out into the plain. And there his precious wife came running to meet him. Andromache was the daughter of Eetion, the Cilician king, and her home was in Thebe, below the forest of Plakos. She came to meet him, and the nurse followed with the boy in her bosom. Quite a little child, cheerful and merry. Their little Hector, the tiny champion of Troy, like a shining star, whom they dearly loved. Hector called him Scamandrios, but to others he was Astyanax, his gracious majesty, for Hector was the sole saving help of the city. Hector means the same as whatever that says, Lord and King. Okay. The father smiled quietly as he looked at his boy, but Andromache stood by his side with tears running down her cheeks, and caught his hand fast while she said, "My dearest, how can you do it? Your courage will be your death. You have no pity for your baby boy, or your unhappy wife, who will soon be your widow. Soon they will all rush upon you and kill you, and if I lose you, it would be better for me to go down into my grave. There will be no more comfort for me if you are taken, but only sorrow. I have no father and no mother now. My father was slain by Achilles. He laid waste my home. Thebe with its lofty towers, he killed Eetion, although he did not despoil him, for he thought that a wicked thing. He burnt him with his armor, and raised a barrow upon him, and the divine Oreads of the mountains planted elm trees round about. My 7 brothers all went down to Hades in one day, for that terrible Achilles killed them all amid their cattle and sheep. My mother, who was queen in that place, he brought away a prisoner. With the other spoil, he set her free for a heavy ransom, but Artemis Archeress shot her in her father's home. So you are my father and my mother, Hector. You are my brother. You are my loving husband. Then pity me and stay here behind the walls. Do not make your boy an orphan and your wife a widow, but post your men by the fig tree, where the wall may be scaled most easily, where the wall is open to assault. 3 attacks there have been already in great strength. Aias and the other Aias, then Idomeneus, then the 2 kings with Diomedes, whether it be some diviner gave them a hint, or it may have been their own thought. Oh, it was definitely the gods. Some diviner definitely gave them a hint. It was the gods, for sure. Hector answered, I have not forgotten all that, my wife. But I could not show my face before the men or the women of Troy if I skulk like a coward out of the way. And I will not do it, for I have learnt how to bear myself bravely in the front of the battle, and to win credit for my father and myself. One thing I know indeed in my heart and soul, a day shall come when sacred Troy shall perish, and Priam and the people of Priam. But my sorrow is not so much for what will happen to the people, or Queen Hecabe herself, or King Priam, or my brothers, when all those good men and true shall fall in the dust before their enemies. As for you, when some armed man shall drive you away weeping, and take from you the day of freedom, to think that you should live in a foreign land and ply the loom at the orders of another woman, that you should carry water from strange fountains, crushed under stern necessity, a hateful task, that someone should see you shedding tears and say, there is Hector's wife, and he was the first and best of the brave Trojans when there was that war about Troy, and he will make your pain ever fresh, while there is no such man to save you from the day of slavery. May I be dead and buried deep in the earth before I hear your cries, and see you dragged away. As he spoke, Hector held out his arms for his boy, but the boy shrank back into the nurse's bosom, crying, and scared at the sight of his father, for he was afraid of the gleaming metal and the horsehair crest, when he saw that dreadful thing nodding from the top of the helmet. Father and mother laughed aloud, and Hector took off the helmet and set it down on the ground, shining and flashing. Then he kissed his son and dandled him in his hands, and prayed aloud to heaven. O Zeus, and all ye heavenly gods, grant this my son may be as notable among our people as I am. And let him be as strong, and let him rule Ilios in his strength. When he goes to war, let them say, this man is much better than his father. May he kill his enemy and bring home the blood-stained spoils, and give joy to his mother's heart. Then he gave his boy back into the mother's arms, and she pressed him into her sweet-scented breast, laughing through the tears. Her husband was moved with pity as he saw this. He stroked her with his hand and said, my dearest, do not grieve too much. No man will send me to my grave unless it is to be so ordained. But destiny is a thing which no man can escape, neither coward nor brave man, from the day he is born. Go home now, and see to your own household work, the loom and the distaff, and keep your servants to their tasks. War shall be men's business, and mine especially of all those who are in Ilios. Then Hector took up the helmet with its nodding crest, but his wife went on her way home, turning again and again to look, as the tears flowed thick and fast. And when she got to her own house, all the women fell a-weeping too. They mourned for Hector in his own house while he still lived, for they never thought he would escape his enemies and return from the battle again. Paris made no delay either. As soon as his armor was on, he hurried through the city at the top of his speed. He was like a stallion after a good feed at the manger, who breaks his halter and runs whinnying over the plain to his usual bath in the river. He bears himself proudly, arches his neck, the mane shakes over his shoulders. He knows his own fine looks as he gallops along to the place where the mares graze. Such was Paris Priamedes, as he marched down from Pergamon in armor shining like the sun, chuckling with glee as his quick feet ran. He caught up with his brother just as he was leaving the place where the two loving hearts had spoken. Paris at once said, "Well, your worship, you see what a drag I am on you when you are in a hurry? I'm late, and I did not come along fair and square as you told me." Hector said, "My good fellow, no fair-minded man could despise your work in battle, for you fight well, but you do not really want to fight, and you are glad to hang back. What I regret is that I hear people speak ill of you, when all their hardships are borne for your sake. But let us go on. We will satisfy them by and by. If Zeus ever grant us to set up a bowl of deliverance in our hall, in gratitude to the deathless gods of heaven, when we have driven the enemy host away from Troy." Well, there you have it. Just Hector and Paris doing brother things, just trying to get right for the people of Troy there. And yeah, that was a nice little passage between Hector and his wife and his son, and it's kind of sad, but, you know, we'll see what happens. Tune in next time for Chapter 7, how Aias and Hector fought in single combat, and how the Trojans sent a herald to propose peace. Oh, Hector's going to be in action next chapter. That'll be a good one. Tune in next time.